this special meeting of the Dearborn School
made
Board
it.
of Education, and may I have a roll call?
Sponsored by the Chinese government.
Oh, I'm sorry, for July 20th,
In
2015.
Trustee Miriam Massey. Here. Trustee Vito.
Here.
Lane. Here. Michael Mead.
Here.
Mary Petchikoff. Here. President.
Here. Next item, please.
Next item is citizen participation. There are no blue cards.
Okay, I'm going to make a brief statement before we get started. Just to let you know, while we were conducting the interviews, it seems as if there was plenty of time for all of the interviews and all of the questions to be covered, and most of the applicants actually had additional time remaining. However, Mr. Hussein Berry was our first interviewee, and he seemed to think during the process that he had some time remaining. I checked with the timekeeper, and she verified that his 15 minutes had elapsed. However, after reviewing the videos, we discovered, and I confirmed, that he was shorted more than 4 minutes on his interview. It wasn't intentional. He believes that it wasn't intentional, as do I. And I asked him if he'd like to address the board this evening, and he stated that he was confident that the board knew him and that he didn't feel that was necessary. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. And I'm sorry that it happened, but it certainly wasn't intentional, and he knows that. I also want to thank Dr. Wilmot very much for helping us and sharing his expertise during this difficult process. And I would like to thank everyone who submitted an application. We had some very, very impressive applicants and many highly qualified candidates. And I'm fairly certain some of them will probably serve on this board in the future. And also, this is a very difficult and important decision that we're making as a board. And just to get started, I have narrowed my choices down. But the difficulty comes when you start to rank those. So that being said, I would like to begin by just going around the table, and before anyone reveals their first choice, I just want to get some ideas of the thought process that each of us went through. And I think while they're making their selections, and I think perhaps that would assist each of us in kind of solidifying our ranking, and it would also help the audience know some of what we struggled with over the last 2 weeks. We did discuss already what we felt was important in the applicant. So just to share your thought processes, if anybody has anything that they'd like to add.
Ready?
Okay, go ahead.
So, when I was thinking about it, of course, I was at a different place, and it reminded me of the blind man and the elephant, that everybody saw things different, felt things differently. Some saw or felt a trunk, and so I listened very carefully to the words because I didn't have any visual distractions, and I paid a lot of attention to what things people said at the interview. That was the basis. I don't know most of the people personally. I mean, I probably, when I watch them later visually on the replay, I realize, well, I've been in meetings with a lot of these people. So I did try to set the social part of it aside, and I returned to my notes of the visual or the oral interview. So with that being said, I looked at the visual, but I didn't really pay a lot of attention to that. And the other thing that was really important to me was what documentation was submitted by people. And some people said, I'll write, I have references, I'll contact you later. We're under such a time crunch. I looked at what I had in front of me, and I went with that. I wanted, besides the criteria that we already mentioned, in their presentation, in primarily their words, but their written documents as well. I wanted someone who could speak and reason publicly and spontaneously. I wanted someone who could analyze things, especially systems. When I listened to everyone, I mean, even looking quickly at any of the resumes, you realize that lots of contribute, and that's the whole point of having a 7-person board, is to have so many points of view. And I'm really humbled when I think about what everybody can bring, things that I don't know, but we're looking at big systems, we're looking at policy. So I wanted people who could look at system rather than details, which leads one to micromanage. Another important factor to me was their commitment to board service. Whether the service in the community was paid or unpaid, that was a factor. I looked at also whether they were, the community commitments were recent or long past. I looked at primarily how well they did in the interviews and whether they answered the question before them. So I did not go to references, and I did reply to a couple of people that I wasn't going to call references. I tried to discard the social factors, but that's what I looked at. That's what I used to make my ranking. And I hope that we can get through this. I know we all have different points of view and different people that I think would be great, and I think almost all of them would be great. So I hope we can get through this. I have no intention to slight everyone, and as Jordan said, there were 20 people, any one of whom could sit here, participate in this, the most local of democratic institutions, and I would be happy to have any of them, but I would like to thank all of them, because it takes a lot of courage to say, I'll do that and publicly stand up.
Trustee Pepper.
Along with some of the comments Trustee Lane mentioned, which are very good points that you use to assess somebody. Because of the amount of time that we only had, and there was a lot of individuals, and the questions were pretty generic, it's really hard to really get to know these individuals if you didn't already know them. Which makes it that much more difficult to do the job that generally the electorate gets to do, to make these assessments and to go with. So what I used to, and this was defining my objective all along, was that I wanted to see as well in the individuals the fact that they had gained the trust of the community in some fashion, either through their community service and how they had interacted with the community over a wide variety of the community members, either with the city or the school district, and whether their service was recognized and validated by members of the community in that fashion, by having either been involved for a long period of time or not during that. So that also quantified for me whether the individuals were had the faith of the community. Because right now we're doing the job of what the electorate is going to do next year, and it's only for a very short period of time. And quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, people are going to perceive whoever we picked as somebody with an added advantage if they were to choose to move forward in another year and a half time as somebody that we at least perceived endorsed as a board member by our choosing them. And I want to make sure that I don't give the impression that I know hardly any of these individuals enough in order for me to feel comfortable to validate them to that extent without some more information, some more facts down the road that only time can determine with getting to know them better. So I used those factors that would recognize that they had engaged in the community in a way that was meaningful, and that they had the trust and respect of the community returned.
Trustee Bazey?
Before I talk about what I was looking at, I just want to confirm that I understand the process. So it's my understanding, and yourself or Dr. Roman can assist, that we're all going to be advancing one candidate first, and then possibly going on to a second.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And I agree a lot with Trustee Petchikoff as well as Trustee Lane's comments. I think that addition to everything that they stated that I was looking for, I believe everyone can come in. I believe everyone's qualified. We have some outstanding candidates. The question is, who's best for this moment? And I was looking at someone, we sat down, we had a conversation, we talked about what we were looking for, someone who showed leadership, someone who showed possibly some board experience, a commitment to the district, involved in the district, somebody who has proven, could prove their involvement and their commitment. And I think that's where the references were so important. That's where the community organizations that they were part of became so important to me because it was a short time frame. And I do believe that what we have to look for is someone who can come in now, have met all that criteria and can help assist us in this time frame that we're in right now. And so that's what I was looking at, without being redundant and saying over again what my fellow board members have said, which I agree with wholeheartedly. Those are some of the thoughts that I had in mind when I was thinking about this. This is a very, very difficult choice to make.
Jill?
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, notwithstanding everything that's been said ahead of time, my analysis is very unscientific. I do it the way I always do. I get a feeling by what I listen to, what I hear, and what I read. Keeping in mind that it's an interim position, it's limited scope. Numbers at some point, year from now, we'll have to decide who the long-term member is. And I just made my decision based on a feeling that I had, tempered by what we were looking for in duration of my term. That's it for me.
One thing that if I can add, that you said in a previous meeting that kind of struck with me is with us having a board member that's gone, what, like you said, what do we need right now to help address what this board is missing?
And I think I kept that in the back of my mind.
Yeah, I thought that was important as well.
And again, I absolutely agree. One of 18 people could have been filled this position very nicely as Bill Humphrey said. I was very impressed with everything that I heard. Obviously, some a little more than others, some a little more on point, some had a little bit more knowledge of the district and some on points. And, but anyone that was on this list, I think.
The criteria I use for reviewing these extraordinary candidates are community service, experience on other boards, as well as this one, personal connections with the community, and interest in the goal of student achievement. That's it.
A couple things that I want to add, and I absolutely agree with everyone, everything that's been said as well. And I have to say that the community itself, what this says about our community and their willingness to engage and their willingness to come forward and put themselves out, it tells a lot about not only what the college and the district, where we're at and what we've done, but how much the community trusts and believes in what we're doing. So I just have to make that known. But a couple things that I was thinking about is that I believe that diversity of talents and skill sets on the board is vital. Because we lost Amy, and for example, she was a finance person, and we're losing Sam at the district. So I think someone with finance background kind of would stick in my mind a little bit, because I see a need for that information and that skill set on the board right now, or at least for the next 18 months. With short-term experience, like I said, board experience I think was essential, especially pertaining to education, if they had that, and exhibits a belief and a passion for public education, because that's what we do, that's who we serve. And of course, what was said before, the ability to not only attend meetings, but also to represent the college and the district at community events and within the community. So that was kind of my thought process as well. With that being said, I am going to have Dr. Wilmot come and help us facilitate this process, because he is our expert and he is willing to help. And I We need it, basically.
Well, I think if the truth were to be told, the reality is the six of you as trustees of this school community have put a significant amount of time and effort into this very, very important process. And that cannot be understated in any way, shape, or form. And I know, having had the opportunity to speak with several of you, that there's a real sensitivity to those 20 original and 18 who actually interviewed for the support them. That they be treated with a great deal of respect and appreciation for their willingness to serve. And so I think at the outset, it just makes sense to reiterate once again that the board is very appreciative of all of those who came forward and offered their service to the school community, and in no way we want it to be attributed that the board is rejecting any of the candidates, but rather trying to work through all of the 18 who are interviewed for the position and find those that meet the individual criteria that each of you have identified. We talked about a process that said, I would poll similar to what we did in the superintendent search, only with a little different twist, and that being that each of you are going to bring forward your first choice, and I'll record them on the board. We'll have a visual as to where the board stands on each of the candidates, and then depending upon the diversity, the number of different people that get identified, the board then would perhaps want to engage in some more dialogue. The bottom line is, when we finish tonight, your efforts to fill this position will cease. And if the board is unsuccessful in coming together on a consensus on an individual candidate, then this final decision will be made outside of the Dearborn community, which I don't believe anybody really is interested in having happen. So I would just urge that you listen with a great deal of consideration to comments made by your fellow board members, and look for common ground in an effort to find a person to fill that very important seat. So with that, especially not if I may, because you're closest.
I knew it was going to start with.
I'm sorry.
Throw down the gauntlet.
Can you give me your first choice?
Pam Adams.
Thank you. And I'm just going to record the last names here. And Trustee Lane.
Fadwa Alawiya.
Should I go next or should I go last?
Your preference.
Okay, I'll go last. Well, I don't really care.
Go.
Okay. Did you say go?
Yes, please.
Okay, Hussein Bear.
Thank you. Sponsor.
Fadwa Alway.
Trustee Leo. Pam Adams. Thank you. And Dr. Reed.
Fadwa Holloway.
So, 3 of the members of the current board have identified one specific individual. 2 others focused on a common name, and the third on their own. So at this juncture, my question to you is, with 3, my advice would be that we not go talking at this point about second choices, but rather ask you as a board to talk with one another about these 3 individuals and see if we can't form a consensus around one of those 3. Who would like to start? Ms. Pazzi?
I'll start. The reason I picked Fadwa is when you look at everything as a whole, her references, they came from very experienced. We've dealt with her at different career or involvement career, however you say it. You had a reference from someone who was a friend who saw her involvement presently. We talked about how they had children in the district and how they wanted, they were choosing her, I guess, when we talk about people in the district and what they would like to see, that they were comfortable with her being the person making decisions for their children. And then you had someone who, his opinion I respect highly, who understands the board, President Schullis, and former President Schullis, who knows what the board has done, knows what the board does, and we all have given a lot of, we all understand her service and her commitment to this district, and I very much valued her recommendation because I know she understands this board, and I know she understands what we do and what we would need for this time frame. And then beyond looking at that, and that made it helpful because as Trustee indicated, it's difficult to call people up. I was one of the people who volunteered during the superintendent search and call people and get opinions. So when you actually have things in writing, that helps. When I thought about the check marks that we were talking about, the leadership, the board experience, the commitment to the district, the involvement in the district, the commitment to public education, in my mind, in what she presented, the answer she gave, it was pretty much a check on every single one of those things that we indicated as a board we wanted, we would like to see and we wanted to see in the next person who came before us. And I think it's great, it's wonderful when you get someone who meets a lot of that criteria. It's great if you find someone who meets all that criteria. And from what I recall, I believe she met all the criteria in that regard. I also think that it's incredibly important to have someone who can come in, who can think on their feet, who can bring value in this dialogue that we have. And, Amy had she had great big shoes, but I think we're all capable. I think we're a great board. I think we're capable of exchanging ideas, and it's about finding somebody who can come in and exchange ideas with us, talk to us, and present themselves in a manner that is friendly and conducive and open to conversation and open to dialogue. I chose her because I truly do believe that she would be a great fit for this position at this time, and I stand by that, and I hope that some of what I say gives board members pause and maybe something to reflect on.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know whether you wanted all of the arguments pro, con, or whether we were going back and forth. So okay, I'm ready to speak. My approach was to look at every interview. Every interview was a test, and the documents were the basis for that. So I tried to throw out everything else that was in the back of my head. And I asked myself, who was most prepared, who used every second of their time and answered the questions directly, articulated answers, brought me some new ideas, was professional in their appearance, and confident. So for that reason, Fenwa Alawiya was, to me, the strongest by far candidate. She's a professional person, she's very accomplished, but besides that, I liked in the interview that she was the only person who said, how much time do I have? She returned to a question. She was very confident, she was quick on her feet. So she had a really great presentation, and that's what I thought that the decision should be based on. Although we, I screened already people that I didn't think had a track record that they were running on. So track record was important, being involved in schools and in community. So with that, I also thought another thing that I like about her is her courage. She brings some diversity, which is always good for me. She brought some new ideas. I didn't want to rehash what's already been done, so I'm ready to move forward. She had those things, so for that reason, I thought she was the best candidate.
Okay, the reason I chose Pam Adams is a couple of reasons. One of which I spoke about. She's already had the trust of the community, having served 18 years on the board, so they voted and had confidence in her abilities to represent them all these many years. She brings with her the knowledge of both the P12 and the college. She's served on the board successfully all that time. She knows where we're at and what we're looking for to move forward. She has no personal or political agenda other than to come in and help in this interim position, so that I don't feel that I'm choosing somebody and endorsing somebody for the future electorate to hang a hat on, but rather that she's coming in here strictly selflessly in order to help us accomplish filling a seat in the board until the next regular election. And I think that is a valuable way to look at this, because we're only 6 people. We don't speak for the thousands of voters in this community. We can only represent them as best we can with the knowledge that we have available. I know what Pam Adams brings to the table because she's had a past history with the board and has a record that we can look at and recognize. She knows everything about the board responsibilities and roles and obligations. She doesn't have a learning curve, and she's prepared to come in and fill in for this time period until the voters choose who the next board member should be.
Thank you. What else?
I supported Fatwa Holloway, primarily for the reasons why I already stated, but her leadership is very well known. She started the International Law Student Association. She's the founder and president at, was it Wayne State University? And she's founded the law, well, she was a vice president of the Law Student Association. When she was in high school, she was the president of her senior class. She's a member of the Key Club. She's an honors student from getting her bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan. She's in the student government as a senator. And also she's had board experience. She's in the Government Bar Association in Detroit. She's a board member. The Islamic Center of America, she's a board member. She's the election day chair for the APAC. The Lebanese International Business Council, she's a member. She's well known in the community. She's very obviously pointed at student achievement. She would like all students to be as successful as she is. Those are the main reasons why I'm supporting her as a candidate for this position.
Thank you. What else?
Can we finish, who hasn't spoken yet first? Joe, did you want?
Well, for a lot of the same reasons that Mary said, I was supportive of Pam Adams. I've served a long time on the board with her. I know her very, very well. I know what her heart is. I know what her involvement is. I was a little concerned about some upcoming surgery issues that she's got, but I think she could work through those. And I just looked at this again, as I said before, as an interim position for the next 16 months. I think she'd be a good fit for this board for that time period. As she stated, she doesn't have an intention of running for a full board term. So, I think any of these other people are very electable for November, with or without this board experience at any time. I just think for what we need right now, somebody with experience would be my first choice.
I am in similar thinking to both Joe and Mary, or Trustee Peschel, that I'm looking for somebody to fill this position right now that has experience on preferably this board. I chose Hussein over Pam primarily because of Pam's health concerns. That is an issue for me. And Hussein, he has shown leadership. He was president of this board last year. I think he did an outstanding job. Everybody has some stumbles. I mean, but we learn from our mistakes and we move forward. He was very engaged in the community. When there was an event to be had, he was there, and I was there, and other members of the board. But consistently, even when I wasn't there, I heard, yeah, Hussein was there. He was always engaged in the community on behalf of the board and the college, and I think it's vital. He has shown leadership. He is also engaged in other aspects of the community, like with the youth football team, which gives him a direct line to these students. When we stood at graduation and he shook hands with students, so many of them hugged him, Mr. Berry, because he's watched these guys grow up as they've been little and helped them through life itself, not just school. So that's his experience, I think, shows well, and that was primarily why I chose him. Go ahead.
Sorry, there's something I wanted to say and I couldn't remember, so I just remembered while we were talking. One thing that I would have indicated during her interview that she's been involved in the district, particularly when it came to college and that was tasked and Vermont. So she certainly has an understanding of some of the things we're doing right now in terms of the turnaround for college and that was instrumental in the bond and the purpose of the bond. She's one of those people that was out in the community gathering co-workers and stuff to support those initiatives. So she had that additional thing. So she certainly had an understanding of the two separate institutions herself, as well as just the K-12. At this point, actually, I would like to put a motion on the table.
Can I add something before we do that? She is an outstanding candidate. My primary reason for not having her as one of my first choice is because I think the diversity of the board is very, very important, and her qualities mirror yours very much. I mean, as far as her background information, she's in law and things like that, and I'm looking for a little more diversity on the board. That was why she didn't rise to the top, along with the fact that I was looking for somebody that's already served this board. That's my view, but go ahead.
May I put a motion?
You may.
I motion to support Federalize the new, for Frank Federer as the new trustee of the board for the vacancy of HLS.
Roll call, please. Okay. Bessie?
Support?
Vito?
Yes.
Lane? Yes. Pete?
Yes.
Menchuka?
No.
McDonald?
Yes.
Carries.
So you've gone through a lengthy process, and the most important thing when I first talked to Roxanne about providing some assistance to the board was with the thought in mind that successful governance teams are groups that can come together over some pretty tough issues. Selection of a superintendent, selection of a college president, selection of officers to serve the board, and the selection of an individual to fill a vacancy on the board. And the important thing is, even though there is some diversity of thoughts as to who your individual preferences were, now is the time to come together as a team, truly a 9-member team with your college president and your superintendent, and be able to move forward. My suggestion is, given the favorable action on the motion offered by Ms. Fozzie, supported by Ms. Lane, is that the board adjourn, that, Madam President, you take that opportunity before your 7 o'clock meeting is scheduled to make contact with that candidate and ensure that that individual is willing to serve. And then my understanding is you have an item on your agenda, how do you do the formal appointment to that seat. Clearly, that individual will have to have the oath of office administered to that individual prior to them actually becoming a full functioning member of the board. I would think that you would probably want to schedule that for your next meeting, whether it be at the K-12 or the P-12 or the college or the board.
It has to be done before that.
Now, they can take the oath, they have to take the oath of office, but I think that is the only requirement, right?
But they also have some papers to file.
Okay,
But
so
they
they
can
don't
do
have-
that at Kathy, or not Kathy, I'm sorry, Dawn can help them with that.
But
That's-
You'd be willing, really.
Would be willing.
I do think that, you want to do this as expeditiously as you possibly can.
We're already ahead of schedule, because basically we had till the 30th, and if we're able to get it done tonight, then we're good.
All the better.
All the better.
All the better. Thanks for the opportunity to work with you again. This is a really great educational community, and I continue to look for wonderful things to come out of Dearborn. Not just out of the P-12, but out of the college as well. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, I need to take roll call.
Do we adjourn?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, next item, please. Adjournment? We are adjourned.